Hello. I think I'll just let everyone join us. We're going to try and do a little session on transitions, and we're going to be transitioning between four of us, hopefully successfully. Let's see. I'm Catherine Davis. With my job share partner, I lead the Transitions, Autism and Participation Unit at the Department for Education. I just want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk today specifically about what we can do to support children and young people to make successful transitions as they move between stages of education or between settings, and then ultimately into adulthood. We know that as a child grows up, they're going to experience many different transition points, and that careful planning and support is needed at each of those transition points, starting right in the early years and going all the way through to adulthood. So I'm really pleased that we've got colleagues today from the Department for Work and Pensions and the Department of Health and Social Care so that we can talk about that full journey through. We're going to start by giving a quick overview of some of the work we have going on in our three departments. And I need to press buttons, don't I? Sorry. Here we go. Of the work we have going on in our three departments. But then we want to spend most of this session in discussions with you around the tables, because we want to hear your insights, your experiences and your views on what more we can do to make sure that children and young people are supported in each of those transitions. So I'm going to start with a really quick look back at what we said in the Send an AP improvement plan, which was published last March. That improvement plan was informed by the Send Review consultation process in the spring of 2022. And during that consultation, we heard a lot that many people felt that support wasn't in place at key transition points. That information about a child or young person's needs wasn't shared easily or early enough. And that late planning and late decision-making had a real negative impact on children and people's experiences and on their ultimate outcomes. But in the improvement plan, we set out our vision there, which was for a system which supports children and young people to successfully move through education and into adulthood, regardless of whether they've got an EHCP or not, any child, young person with SEND, through the wide variety of routes available in education. And so, because we know from that consultation that to be successful, those transitions need to be planned in advance, in close consultation with the child, the young person themselves, and with parents and carers, to make sure that appropriate support is put in place. So in the improvement plan, we committed to developing best practice guidance to promote effective transitions processes. And we're hoping that through our conversations today, we'll get some insights from you that we can use to inform the development of that guidance. The guidance will ultimately look at transitions between all stages of education, but initially we're looking at transitions into and out of post-16. We're working with DWP, with DHSC, with key partners from SEND and post-16 sectors to develop that guidance, but we're also really committed to co-producing this guidance. So we've been talking to NNPCF, we've been talking to young people through FLARE and so forth, and kids, and we're really keen to hear from you today and to have that opportunity to get, hoping, loads of input into what we need to include in the guidance. Alongside the development of the guidance, there are several other areas of work that we've got in progress at the moment across the three departments that support specific transition points. I'm going to outline a couple of those from the DfE, including the role of alternative provision and programmes that are specifically about supporting preparation for and transition to employment. And while I'm not going to say anything specific today about some other really key transition points, such as early years to primary and primary to secondary, I just want to assure you that it is absolutely our intention that the guidance will ultimately cover those transitions too, and there are discussion tables today on those transition points as well. And then after covering those couple of DfE initiatives, I'm going to hand over to colleagues to talk about some DWP and DHSC work as well. So we'll start with alternative provision. Alternative provision schools play an essential part in providing supportive relationships and facilitating engagement in education. The best AP schools provide supportive relationships, keeping children and young people safe. They promote mental health and well-being, and they offer quality education. Alternative provision can also support pupils with medical needs, including those who are unable to attend school due to physical or mental health needs. We're really clear that AP settings should not be used in place of specialist SEND provision where that's what's appropriate, but the AP can have a role in helping with both identification of SEND and development of strategies to support learners of SEND within their mainstream settings. The AP reforms that were set out in the improvement plan demonstrate our ambition for a local system where AP provides outreach or short-term placements for children who are still within their mainstream setting. They're offering that support for the child's family, and also offering support and strategies for the school to implement so that they can be supporting the child in the longer term. Then there are more bespoke support placements within alternative provision, where a child or young person is maybe moving from one school into a new school or onto a post-16 placement. And the aim is that the AP reforms there will build a real strong partnership working between mainstream schools and AP schools, and that movement of pupils between AP and mainstream will only happen in an open and transparent way and when it's in the best interests of the child. But we know any movement between settings can be unsettling for a child and for their family. And so in the transitions guidance, we want to sort of specifically work out and set out some examples of best practice in making that transition as smooth and supported as possible. And then just moving on to talk a little bit about preparation for employment and some of the initiatives that we've got going on to support that. I'll talk firstly about apprenticeships. Obviously a really well-known pathway, which offering on-the-job training for young people to equip them for a future career. Funding is available for training providers and employers to make reasonable adjustments to support apprentices who've got learning disabilities or difficulties, to support them through that learning, and that funding is available both from the DfE, but there's also funding from Access to Work, which I know my DWP colleagues are going to talk about in a moment. We're working really hard to promote apprenticeships as an opportunity for people from all ages and backgrounds, and taking specific action to try and help and encourage more disabled young people to access apprenticeships. Those numbers are going up. In 2015-16, there were 10.1% was the proportion of apprentices who declared a learning difficulty or disability. That's gone up to 15.3% in 2022-23. So it's going in the right direction, but there's still more that we can do to support that. And a couple of the things that are being done at the moment to support that include piloting flexibilities to reduce the English and maths requirements for level 2 and level 3 apprenticeships. So at the moment, that requirement is a level 2 in English and maths. This is really wordy. At the moment, the requirement is a level 2 in English and maths, and that we're piloting reducing that to entry level 3. That flexibility is already there if you've got an EHCP, but we're piloting it even if you don't have an EHCP, like how we can make that flexibility available too. And I think the early findings of that is that's going really well. And last month we also launched a pilot to test whether offering expert support, advice and training to mentors for apprentices with learning difficulties would result in a positive impact on the cohort. So that pilot's just launched, it's running for a year, and it's going to enable around 250 to 300 mentoring partnerships to be established across England. The other initiative that we want to talk about was the supported internship programme. Supported internships are a study programme for young people aged 16 to 24 with an EHCP who want to move into employment and need some extra support to do so. I'm hoping you're all aware that we're investing quite a lot of money into the supported internships programme. So we're investing 18 million to build capacity in that programme, make more opportunities aware for more young people to have that supported route into employment. But we're also piloting there, like whether that approach, whether that supported internship model of really supported engagement through a trained job coach to support that young person to develop skills in the workplace, whether that approach can equally work for young people with complex needs but without an education, health and care plan. And in the spring budget last year, the Chancellor announced that a pilot into that, and that's underway at the moment, running in 12 local authorities. And yeah, fine, we'll be looking with interest at the findings from that pilot. The last area that I wanted to just touch on today was careers. So we know that that's another really key pillar of preparation for employment, is that effective careers advice, and that advice needs to be aspirational, but it also needs to be really tailored to the student's individual needs. Schools and colleges have a legal responsibility to ensure that young people with SEND are offered quality careers advice. And to support that, we fund the Careers and Enterprise Company to help schools and colleges deliver careers programmes that are in line with the Gatsby benchmarks. The Careers and Enterprise Company offer training modules to schools and colleges, to careers leaders, and working closely with the SENCO to help them identify the guidance needs of all pupils and put in place a personalised support and transition plan for learners with SEND. The CEC also have a national network of careers hubs that brings together schools, colleges, alternative provision, apprenticeship. They bring to all sorts of people across the interested partners, and that's to help break down the barriers to opportunity that are experienced by many young people. And in each of those hubs, and they exist across the country, in each of those hubs, there are specialists in SEND provision who create and share specific resources like localised resources to support SEND students in both mainstream and in specialist settings. And they also offer training to employers in their area to help employers to deliver inclusive work experience placements, but also inclusive work exposure opportunities, so where employers are going into schools and talking about the types of careers that they offer. And all of that careers offer is obviously underpinned by that National Careers Service, which provides information, advice and guidance to young people, and also provides advice to some adults, particularly within those who are within 6 priority groups, and that includes adults with learning difficulties and disabilities. So that careers advice can continue into adulthood for those with learning difficulties and disabilities. So I'm going to hand over to Stephen now to talk a little bit more about some of DWP's programme.
Thanks very much, Catherine. And I mean, in view of the time, I just want to focus on a couple of particular points. I was very struck when I heard Anna this morning talk about the work of Contact, particularly when she talked about the whole issue of social justice. And just to give you to introduce myself first, I'm the policy lead within DWP for autism and learning disability employment. Now, it's fairly unusual to focus just on a couple of disabilities. Most of what DWP does is pan-disability. But we have a particular focus on those 2 areas, really for the issue of social justice. For both groups, the employment rate is only around 3 in 10. So that means if you're autistic or if you're learning disabled, you have a 7 in 10 chance that you're not in work, that you're not independent, that you're not able to fund your housing, that you're not able to live a full life in the way that most other people can live. And it's not because they don't want to, because all the evidence shows that autistic and other neurodiverse people and learning disabled people want to work. The vast majority want to work, and the vast majority of them can work if the right support is there. So the issue we're really concerned about is what are the barriers preventing those people who want to work, moving into work, staying in work, and succeeding in work. So for the last year or so, I've been mainly focused on a review which we've been running with Sir Robert Buckland, who is an MP who has a particular interest in this area. He has an autistic daughter of his own, but he's had a long-standing interest. You want to do one? Oh, right, okay. We'll go to the next one. Yeah. He has a long-standing interest in this issue, and we spent months collecting evidence from a whole range of stakeholders, importantly from many autistic people themselves, but also from lots of other groups. And we were looking at 5 interrelated themes. So one is about improving the knowledge and understanding in the wider world, and particularly amongst employers, of what autism is, to some extent what learning disability is, how it presents itself, what are the issues that people with that condition are facing. The second broad theme is about preparing autistic people for employment. So how do you work to make sure that they've got high aspirations, to make sure that they understand how the world of work works, that they get work experience. The third theme is about supporting autistic people through the recruitment process. The recruitment process generally doesn't work very well for autistic people. It generally doesn't work very well for most people, really, but how can you improve that? The fourth issue was when there's an autistic person in work, how can the employer effectively support them? What are their support needs? How can that be identified, and how can that be delivered? And the final theme we looked at is how do you enable employers to in turn enable people to succeed with their employment, to progress with their employment, to move up through their careers. So we as I said, we spent many months looking at that, and we drew all those conclusions together into a report, and here it is, which we published just yesterday, in fact. So it is now on gov.uk, and it's I can't give you the URL, although we'll send it round afterwards. But if you just Google Buckland Review of Autism Employment, you'll find it on gov.uk, and you'll find our conclusions in there. And the conclusions, if I summarise it in very, very broad terms, the conclusions are, it's not really that difficult, and it's not really that expensive. You just have to start doing it, and employers in particular have to start doing it and have to understand what they need to do. They do need some guidance and some help, because many employers want to support people but don't know how to do it. So we're talking in terms of producing some detailed industry by industry levels of guidance to help them with that. And a lot of the other support that they need is really, either very cheap or sometimes entirely free. It's just about changing processes, changing attitudes within the workplace, and it can be done. So what I wanted to reassure all of you, I was speaking to lots of people over the lunch break, and the heroic work that you're all doing to try and support your own young people is you're not alone. We in the centre, we are recognising that more needs to be done, and we've started that journey. Our particular aspiration is certainly that we would get the 3 in 10 autistic and learning disabled people who currently are getting work at least up to the 5 in 10, which is the figure for all autistic people, and aspiring towards the 8 in 10, which is the employment rate for non-disabled. So that's our target. We hope we can work in partnership with all of you in working towards achieving that target. I'm not sure if that was a reaction to what I just said, but the key point in this is it is something that is requires partnership between government and particularly employers, but also all the other groups like the parents and carers forums, etc., who are working in this field. If we can all focus our attention and work together, then we can achieve great things. So I just wanted to, what I won't do, I won't spend any more time talking about that. There are some slides which talk about some of the offers we make, particularly around the youth offer. Access to work is an important bit of provision that DWP offers. If people don't know about it, then I'd encourage you to find out about it, because it can be very helpful. And there's a range of particular programs that we're developing. The Universal Support Program, which is going live this year, it's a really innovative program, because it's a place then train program. So the aim is to get the person into work first and then support them with their needs, rather than doing traditionally you would get them work ready, so you'd have them in preparation for work, but quite often they would never actually be able to move into the job. So this one, you start with the job and then you develop the support package around it. So I think that's really innovative and really exciting. So I'm going to be around for the rest of the day. If anybody's interested in any of what I've said, do come and have a chat with me, and I look forward to working with all of you as we go forward.
Hi everyone, I'm Eleanor from the Department of Health and Social Care, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what we have been doing to support transitions into adult social care. So under the Care Act, it's the responsibility of adult social care to conduct transitions assessments for young people approaching 18 to help prepare them for adulthood. Understanding what outcomes a young person might wish to achieve as an adult and what care and support can be offered for them to help them achieve these goals. The Care Act Statutory Guidance is a key resource developed by the Department for Health and Social Care, which aims to help local authorities effectively discharge their duties under the Care Act. So this recognises that transitions to adult social care can come at a time when there's lots of changes in a young person's life, and therefore transitions planning should be person-centred and happen at the right time for that individual. So we, as a department, along with other organisations, have done a range of different pieces of resource and guidance to help local authorities guide well-planned and managed transitions into adult social care. So just to pull out a few, we have the Care Act Statutory Guidance, which I have already mentioned. There's also the Social Care Institute for Excellence, which is a funded partner of the department. They have developed a repository of all the guidance that's available. This includes best practice examples, resources and management tools, which can be used by local authorities to conduct and monitor their ability to deliver well-planned and managed transitions. There's also quite a similar resource developed by the local government organisation, and that is aimed at helping local authorities to interpret legislation and guidance around preparing for adulthood and transitions specifically for young people with learning disabilities and autism. And it's also worth mentioning the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence. So they are an arm's length body of the department, and they've recently updated their quality standard for transitions from children's to adult services. So this provides a set of 6 statements which local authorities can use as a benchmark for the quality of their service provision, and they can also be used as a measure of evaluation and improvement. Moving on to some of the upcoming work we have. Colleagues in the Department of Health and Social Care are working with Department for Education colleagues to update the Autism Statutory Guidance. So this is aimed overall to improve the outcomes for people with autism, but specifically we have been looking at a section on how local authorities can support young people with autism as they transition out of children's care and prepare them for adulthood. We're also developing the Down Syndrome Statutory Guidance. So the chapters are currently being scoped following the call for evidence, and we hope to have a chapter in there on preparation for adulthood and transitions into adult social care. It's also worth mentioning the CQC local authority assessments. So following 5 successful pilot assessments, these are now being rolled out across England, and they will cover local authorities' discharge of their Care Act duties. So transitions will come under theme 3, which is ensuring safe systems, pathways and transitions. And then picking up on what DfE colleagues have previously mentioned, we are working with them on transitions guidance following the commitment made in the SEND and AP improvement plan. But yeah, I'll be also around for the rest of the day, and I will be on one of our breakout tables to chat about transitions into adult social care. So hope to chat to as many of you as possible. Thanks very much.